Gentlemen, we have our laser level. This thing is so freaking cool. So earlier I'd said that we were going to use a laser level to make sure that we had a couple of perfect datums throughout our house. And we did just that. So I'm gonna go ahead and set this down here, make sure that it hits our first box down there, make sure that's hitting our second box down there. Oh, this is really hard to see without zoomed in. There we go. I set that box exactly 12 feet off the wall. I set that box exactly 12 feet off the wall. And what I realized, so earlier I'd said that this was gonna be our primary datum. And so I've got a perfect line here. It's exactly 12 feet off the wall in both directions. Wow, it is dark and you can't see a thing. Okay. That box is exactly 12 feet off that wall. That box is exactly 12 feet off that wall. And whenever I placed the level here and sent it down to the master bedroom, so that way I could grab my other best datum, this wall and this wall, because that is perfectly square, our level, and we had 12 feet off that wall, 12 feet off that corner. I did 8 feet off of this wall to our line, and then came down here with the laser level, and I measured to the final wall, which if this was a perfect house, should have been 8 feet, but it wasn't. It was 7 feet, 11 inches, and ½ an inch. So that means that this wall is slanting inwards just a little bit. So the way that we fix that, instead of setting our tiles perfectly level with that wall out there, we're actually going to make sure that the far end is canted about 1/4 of an inch this way. So, or hold on, 1/4 of an inch that way. So that measurement we'll make sure is 12 feet. That far corner we'll make sure is 11 feet, 11 inches, and 3/4 of an inch, which should ensure that this measurement here is 7 feet, 11 inches, and 3/4 of an inch. And that way we split our difference here. So that way, if we go, well, yeah, we'll do it here. That way our tile here and our tile in this corner will only be off by 1/4 of an inch, which should be fine. The wall should be able to eat that up. Same deal, if we go from this corner all the way to that far corner, that we'll turn the lights on because I can't see a thing in here. There we go. To that far corner, then we'll only be 1/4 of an inch off, which you should not be able to notice the difference going along an entire tile line there, which is great. And then in terms of what tiles to start with, I went ahead and wrote down a schematic and measured all of our longest walls. So like where this wall was, where that wall is, where that wall is. Hallways are especially important, as well as bedroom walls. So I'll make sure that this long distance, that distance. I want to make sure all those have at least 4 inches of tile hitting the wall. Otherwise, we're not going to be within spec. And it's not going to be perfect, but I would much rather have a long run like this right here, where it's super noticeable by the front door, have at least 4 inches of tile rather than just like a tiny little ½ inch strip. If it's something like, I don't know, the back of a closet, we're not really gonna be too concerned with it, but so I need to go home and plan that out so that way whenever we make our first cuts on the tile right here, that we are oriented correctly and that we are cut that direction correctly and cut that direction correctly. Because as long as I get that first tile right, everything should go perfectly. It just requires a little bit of brain power and pre-planning on the front. Also, I did all of our tile patching. So it's like 1 a.m. right now on Thursday, and I don't have work tomorrow because they gave us Friday off. So that's super cool. Tonight is my Friday. I bought the wrong stuff. I accidentally bought self-leveling compound instead of concrete patch, which actually ended up working out okay. So I mixed it up expecting it to be a putty, and it was a liquid. And I was kind of like, oh shit, I have 10 minutes of working time. So I just kind of poured it on the floor, and it flattened that whole area, which was awesome. So I did that too, that too, that too. And then I hit a couple of small spots, but it didn't have a long enough working time for me to actually utilize the bucket. So most of it just hardened in the bucket, and then I had to sledgehammer it out. So I hit this and this and that with the leveling compound and that was kind of it. And I still need to do all of the nail holes along the edge. And so there's still a couple here that you can see where these got gouged out during the removal of the concrete nails for the spike strips under the carpet. But ones that are smaller than, you know, my finger here, no big deal. We did have some larger dents in here, and those are the ones that I want to repair, because if you have a corner of a tile hitting those and somebody steps on it, then you could potentially crack the tile. But the chances of a corner tile landing on here are pretty much zero, because they're actually going to be up against the wall here. And then even if there's an edge of a tile here, because this is so small, it's not going to be an issue. The larger ones I did want to patch, so then I went to the store, bought concrete patch instead of self-leveling compound, mixed it up into 2 batches because you have about 30 minutes of working time. So I did 1 bucket and then another bucket. Grabbed my spatulas, spatulated it on. I forget what the actual tool is called. It's much fancier than that. And then got that all taken care of. So our floor is patched, it's level, it is almost ready for moisture barrier. So whenever friends show up on Saturday, we're going to throw down a sweeping compound, which you can just buy. It's like a bag of fertilizer, essentially, and you throw it out like chicken feed and then sweep everything up, and it allows you to get... concrete will do this thing where if you sweep it, it'll just keep kicking up dust no matter what you do, so you have to use the sweeping compound to latch onto the dust and make it so you can actually get rid of it. So we're going to do 1 sweep of the whole place, and then we're going to vacuum the edges to make sure that our seam tape is going to adhere. We're going to lay down all the moisture barrier everywhere, making sure that it's about, I don't know, like 1.5 inches off the walls. So that way we have enough room for the seam tape. Once the moisture barrier is all down, we'll cut the first tile, and then we'll start laying tile after that. Also, I mentioned this earlier, but because I have friends showing up to help, I went ahead and scheduled the dumpster to show up Saturday morning, so that way we can get rid of all of this in about a 10-yard dumpster. So, should be all good. That's all the updates for tonight. I'm gonna clean up and go to sleep because I've been up for, I don't know how many hours, probably not that many hours, it's only 1 a.m. I will do another update whenever we have some moisture barrier down and some tiles laid. I forgot one more detail. Because the garage is super hot, because we live in Houston, Texas, you have to let the vinyl planks inside a couple days before they're ready to go, so that way they thermally contract to the dimensions of whatever your house is. Because if you install hot tiles all throughout the house and they come down to temperature over the course of the next day, they're going to contract and it's going to mess up your tiling. So I'm going to haul in probably 4 sets of these boxes into the laundry room, where I know that we're not going to have any flooring to do. And then those will be the first boxes that we work through, and then we can haul the rest in after those ones are laid out. Anyways, that's final update. All right, bye.